Most people picture Soviet gulags as just another type of prison, maybe with some extra snow. They imagine prisoners sitting in cells, maybe doing a bit of work now and then, cold but survivable. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Soviet gulag system was essentially slavery, where the currency was bread, the workday was 16 hours, and your employer's business model was working you to death. So yeah, if these stories help you sleep, hit subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Got comments from Seattle to Stockholm last time. The time zone thing never stops being weird to me. Okay, tonight it's Soviet gulags. But before we go anywhere, get cozy. Like, actually cozy. Pillows good? Blanket situation handled? Perfect. Trust me on this one. So congratulations, you just woke up in 1937 in the Soviet Union. It's 4 in the morning and the pounding on your door isn't your neighbour's bass-heavy music. It's the NKVD, Stalin's secret police. Your crime? Who knows? Maybe you were 5 minutes late to work yesterday. Maybe you told a joke about Stalin's moustache. Maybe your neighbour wanted your apartment and told the authorities you were plotting against the government. The reason doesn't matter because you're already guilty. The 2 men who burst into your room don't look at you as a person. To them, you're just today's quota. They have a number of arrests to make, and you're number 7. As you groggily try to understand what's happening, they're already tearing through your few possessions looking for evidence. A book with a suspicious underlined passage, a letter from a cousin who fell out of favour, anything will do. You're given 10 minutes to dress and pack, 10 minutes to say goodbye to your life. What do you take when you might never return? Your warmest clothes, certainly, though you have no idea how inadequate they'll be. Some family photos, maybe, if the officers allow it. They usually don't. The hardest part? If you have a family, they're watching in silent terror. Your spouse knows better than to protest. Your children stare with wide, confused eyes. Everyone understands that making a scene will only result in more arrests. This scene plays out in apartments across the Soviet Union every single night. Hundreds of thousands of similar goodbyes whispered in the dark. The Black Raven, that's what everyone calls the ominous black prison van, is waiting outside. Inside, you find yourself crushed against other confused, terrified people. Some are crying silently, others sit in shocked disbelief. A few veterans of the system stare ahead with empty eyes, already conserving energy for what's to come. The interrogation that follows makes no sense because it's not supposed to. It's theatre. Logic has no place here. You're asked to confess to absurd crimes, to implicate friends in conspiracy plots that never existed. The interrogator, bleary-eyed from an endless shift of extracting confessions, doesn't care about the truth. He cares about meeting his quota of confessions. Just sign, he says, pushing a document toward you. It'll be easier for everyone. Some resist for days, weeks even, through sleep deprivation and beatings, but eventually nearly everyone signs. What choice is there? The system isn't designed to find truth, it's designed to feed the camps. After your trial, a 3-minute formality where your signed confession is read aloud, you're sentenced. 10 years is standard. 10 years of corrective labour for crimes you didn't commit. You want to laugh at the absurdity, but you're too exhausted to manage even that. The journey to the camps is where the real horror begins. Prisoners call it etap, transit. You're herded into train cars meant for cattle, 80 people crammed into a space designed for 8 cows. There's one small window covered with bars and a hole in the floor for a toilet. The stench becomes unbearable within hours. Make room for the living, a prisoner shouts when someone collapses. It's not cruelty, it's necessity. In this packed rail car, every square inch matters. The dead are pushed to the side, sometimes stacked in corners until the next stop. No one can afford to give them more space than that. The journey can last weeks, depending on your destination. The most feared camps are in Kolyma, in the far northeast of Siberia. Getting there means not just the train ride, but also a sea voyage on ships just as crowded and filthy as the trains. Prisoners call these ships floating coffins. Many don't survive the journey. The food on the transport is a daily ration of about 300 grams of bread, roughly the size of your fist, and soup so thin it's practically hot water with a rumour of cabbage. This isn't enough to survive on, but that's by design. The weak will die on the journey. The system considers this efficient. Water is often more precious than food. Sometimes the train stops and guards distribute water, sometimes they don't. Prisoners have been known to lick the condensation off the metal walls of the car. In winter, they eat snow passed through the small window. In summer, many die of dehydration. Sleep is nearly impossible standing up, but prisoners develop a system. They take turns sitting or lying down. They learn to sleep in 20-minute shifts, standing up, leaning against each other like fallen trees. Your muscles scream from the strain, but eventually exhaustion wins over discomfort. The guards check the cars at stops, sometimes pulling out the dead, sometimes not bothering. They don't see people, just cargo. One guard, barely 20 years old with a baby face, casually mentions to another that yesterday's train lost 43 pieces of cargo to the cold. Not people, cargo. You drift in and out of consciousness, losing track of time. Days and nights blur together. The rhythm of the train becomes your heartbeat. The smell of unwashed bodies, excrement and fear becomes so constant you stop noticing it. Your world narrows to the next ration of bread, the next sip of water, the next chance to close your eyes. You learn to spot the signs of someone about to die, a certain vacant look in the eyes, lips pulled back from the teeth in a grimace, breathing that becomes shallow and irregular. When you see these signs, you move away if you can, not from cruelty, but because when they collapse, there will be a brief, violent scramble for their bread ration and their space. This is what the system has reduced you to in just a few weeks. One morning, or maybe it's afternoon, it's impossible to tell. The train finally stops. The doors slide open with a metallic shriek. The light is blinding after the darkness of the rail car. As your eyes adjust, you see it. Endless white, snow stretching to the horizon, broken only by wooden watchtowers and barbed wire. The air is so cold it feels like knives in your lungs. "Welcome to your new home," a guard says with a smirk. "You'll be here until you die or your sentence ends." Mostly they die, he adds to another guard, not bothering to lower his voice. "You've arrived at the edge of the world. This is no ordinary prison. This is the Gulag, a place designed to extract every last ounce of labor from your body before it fails. As you stumble down from the train on legs that barely remember how to walk, you realize with perfect clarity your old life is over. From now on, there is only survival. Not like your warm bed right now, with its soft blankets and comfortable mattress. Not like your safe, heated room where hunger is just a brief sensation before a full meal. The contrast between that comfort and the Gulag's harsh reality couldn't be more stark. The guards are shouting, organizing the new arrivals into lines, men to one side, women to the other. Those who can't stand are thrown onto sleds like firewood. They might be taken to the infirmary, or they might be headed straight to the mass graves that ring the camp. You don't know yet that the infirmary is often just a stop on the way to those same graves. What you do know with absolute certainty is that your survival depends on what happens in the next few hours. The coat that seemed warm enough in Moscow is laughably inadequate here, where temperatures routinely drop to 40 degrees. The shoes that were comfortable for city walking will cause frostbite within hours of working outside. Your new reality is beginning to take shape. Every prisoner around you is thinking the same thing. How do I survive this? What deals do I make? What skills can I trade? Who do I need to befriend or avoid? Because in the Gulag, these aren't just social questions. They're the difference between life and death. As you shuffle forward in line, a prisoner already in camp uniform whispers as he passes, "Whatever work they assign you, try to get transferred to the kitchen or the hospital. Those who work outside in winter don't last long. It's your first lesson in Gulag survival. There will be many more to come, each paid for in suffering, but for now you focus on putting one foot in front of the other, moving toward the processing center where your camp life officially begins." The wooden building ahead has smoke rising from its chimney. It looks almost cozy from a distance, which makes it all the more jarring when you get close enough to read the sign. Labor is a matter of honor, glory, courage, and heroism. Below it, scratched in smaller letters by some prisoner's desperate act of defiance, work to death. Welcome to the Soviet Gulag system. Your time starts now. The processing center is a flurry of dehumanizing efficiency. First comes the shaving. Every prisoner's head is shorn to the scalp, regardless of gender. The guards laugh as women sob, watching their hair fall to the floor. Men clench their jaws, trying to maintain some dignity. It's not just about hygiene or preventing lice, though the camps claim that's the reason. It's about stripping away identity. Next comes the disinfection, a shower with water so hot it scalds your skin, followed immediately by freezing cold. The shock of it makes people scream. Some older prisoners collapse from the sudden temperature change. No one helps them up. Then the uniforms. Not really uniforms at all, but a hodgepodge of whatever's available. Jackets with mismatched buttons or no buttons at all, pants too long or too short, boots that rarely match your foot size, too large and they cause blisters that become infected, too small and your toes freeze. Everything is worn, patched, and perpetually damp. Nothing is warm enough for the Siberian climate. "Name?" barks an administrator without looking up from his paperwork. You answer. He writes something down, then assigns you a number. From now on, that's your identity. You'll answer to it, work under it, potentially die with it as your only epitaph. Your existence has been reduced to digits in a logbook. Profession? He asks next. This is crucial. Those with useful skills, doctors, engineers, cooks, might land slightly better positions. Those without skills will be sent to general labor, which has the highest mortality rate. Whether your answer helps or not, the final step is the same. You're assigned to a brigade, a work unit, and a barracks. Then you're shoved outside again, clutching your meager belongings to find your new home among the identical wooden buildings stretching into the distance. The barracks is so overcrowded that bunks are stacked 3 high, with 2 or sometimes 3 prisoners sharing each one. There's no privacy, no space to call your own. The air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, the sickly sweet odour of infection, and the smoke from the small stove that does little to warm the vast space. A prisoner who's been there longer explains the system as you try to find a place to sleep. Work assignments come at 5 tomorrow morning. Food rations depend on how much work you do. Don't steal from other prisoners. They'll kill you for a crust of bread here. Don't trust the criminals. Don't cross the guards. And don't get sick. He pauses, seeing the overwhelmed look on your face. Then, unexpectedly, he offers a small kindness, the corner of his own sleeping space. "First night's the hardest," he says. "After that, you either learn to live with it or you don't live long." As you lay your head down on the hard wooden bunk, you realize you haven't eaten since the train. Your stomach gnaws with hunger, but the kitchen is closed until morning. Around you, prisoners cough, cry out in their sleep, or speak in hushed tones. Someone is quietly reciting what sounds like poetry. Someone else is silently weeping. The reality of your situation crashes over you in waves. 10 years in this place. You've been here less than a day, and already it feels like an eternity. How will you survive a decade? How will you survive the winter that's only just beginning? Outside, the northern lights dance across the sky, beautiful and indifferent to the suffering below. Inside, you close your eyes and try to remember the face of someone you loved in your previous life. It feels like grasping at smoke. The Gulag has a way of erasing everything but the present moment, and the present is nothing but cold, hunger, and fear. Tomorrow will bring your first day of work, your first test of whether you can adapt to this new reality. For now, exhaustion pulls you toward unconsciousness. Your last thought before sleep claims you is simple: I have to survive. Whatever it takes, I have to survive. From somewhere in the barracks, a prisoner begins to hum a folk song from home. Others join in silently, afraid to make too much noise but desperate for this small connection to the world outside. It's a moment of humanity in a place designed to destroy it. And right now, these brief moments are all that separate the living from the dead. Morning comes too soon, announced by a guard banging a metal rod against a rail. The sound cuts through your fitful sleep like a physical blow. Around you, prisoners jolt awake, already reaching for their boots. They move with practiced urgency. Being late for morning roll call is punishable by reduced rations or worse. Outside, in the pre-dawn darkness, your breath forms clouds in the frigid air. Stars still glitter overhead, obscenely beautiful against the bleakness of the camp. Guards walk the lines, counting prisoners as they shiver in formation. Some prisoners sway on their feet, weak from hunger or illness. If they fall, they're dragged away. Nobody asks where. As the sun finally breaches the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow, you get your first real look at the camp in daylight. Watchtowers loom at regular intervals along the perimeter fence. Guards with rifles pace along walkways, their breath visible in the cold. Beyond the fence is nothing but taiga, the vast Siberian forest that forms a natural prison. Even if you could somehow get past the fence and the guards, the wilderness itself would kill you within days. Today, announces the camp commander, a squat man with a face like folded dough, we begin construction of the new railway spur. Quotas have been increased. Anyone failing to meet their quota will have their rations reduced. A collective tension runs through the assembled prisoners. Increased quotas mean more deaths. Everyone knows it, including the commander. He doesn't care. In fact, there's a certain efficiency to it. The weak die faster, saving the state the trouble of feeding them. As the prisoners disperse to their work assignments, an older man falls into step beside you. "First day, huh?" he asks quietly. "Stick with me if you can. I've been here 3 years. I know how to stay alive." You look at him with surprise and hope. 3 years is an eternity in this place. Maybe he really does know something about survival. "Name's Mikhail," he says, "former engineer from Leningrad. Got 10 years for telling a joke about Stalin's mustache at a dinner party. My host reported me the next morning." He laughs, a dry sound with no humour in it. "Some joke, eh? 10 years for 10 words. As you trudge toward the work site, Mikhail continues his impromptu orientation. Rule 1, conserve energy whenever possible. Never work harder than you have to. The guards want to see motion, not results. Look busy, move slowly, and save your strength. He demonstrates as you reach the work site, picking up a shovel and moving snow with deliberate, unhurried movements. It looks like he's working hard to an observer, but you can see how he's minimizing actual exertion. Rule 2, he continues between shovelfuls. Food is life. Never give up your ration. Never share unless you're getting something better in return. Eat every crumb, lick the bowl, and if you find food, hide it. The moment you start giving away food is the moment you start dying. Around you, hundreds of prisoners are clearing snow, digging through the frozen ground, or carrying materials. Many look like walking skeletons, their uniforms hanging off emaciated frames. They move like automatons, eyes fixed on nothing, conserving even the energy it would take to look around. Rule 3, says Mikhail, nodding toward a group of rough-looking men who aren't working as hard as the others. Stay away from the criminals. The political prisoners, that's us. We're at the bottom of the hierarchy. The criminals run things among the prisoners. They steal, they hurt people, and the guards let them because it keeps us divided. You watch as a guard walks past the loafing criminals without comment, then stops to shout at an elderly man who's struggling with a wheelbarrow. The contrast is stark and deliberate. Divide and rule, the fundamental principle of the Gulag. Last rule, Mikhail says, his voice dropping even lower. Find something to live for. Family outside, God, revenge. Doesn't matter what. Just something to wake up for. The ones who die fastest are the ones who lose hope. You nod, trying to absorb all this information while also keeping your shovel moving. Already your hands are stiff with cold, and you've been working less than an hour. How will you last a full day? How will you last 10 years? Mikhail seems to read your thoughts. 1 day at a time, he says simply. That's all anyone does here. 1 hour, 1 minute, if that's all you can manage. Just keep breathing, keep moving, and don't think too far ahead. The morning crawls by in a haze of exhaustion and cold. By the time the lunch break is called, you can't feel your toes and your hands are raw, despite the rags you've wrapped around them. The promised meal turns out to be a ladle of thin soup, mostly hot water with a few cabbage leaves and the occasional potato, and a small piece of bread. Mikhail shows you how to eat slowly, savouring each bite, making the meagre meal last. The bread is everything, he explains. The soup just keeps you warm for a while. The bread keeps you alive. Around you, other prisoners are employing various strategies. Some gulp their food immediately, desperate to quell the gnawing hunger. Others, like Mikhail, eat methodically, making it last. A few are making trades, a portion of soup for a bit more bread, a cigarette for an extra potato. My wife and daughter are still in Leningrad, Mikhail says suddenly. I think about them every day. That's my reason. What's yours? You consider the question as you chew your last bit of bread. What is worth surviving for in this frozen hell? The answer will be different for everyone, but finding it is the difference between life and death in the camps. As the whistle blows, signalling the end of the brief lunch break, Mikhail stands with a grimace of pain. Back to work, he says. Remember what I told you. Move like you're working hard, but save your strength. We've got 8 more hours before dinner, and that's when the real cold sets in. You follow him back to the work site, mimicking his deliberate movements. Already you're learning the choreography of survival, the dance between doing enough to avoid punishment and conserving enough energy to stay alive. It's a delicate balance, one that every prisoner must master or perish. The afternoon stretches endlessly, the sun already beginning its early winter descent. Your muscles scream with fatigue, and hunger has settled into a constant companion in your gut. But you keep moving, keep breathing, 1 shovelful at a time, 1 minute at a time. Mikhail works nearby, occasionally catching your eye with a nod of encouragement. Around you, other prisoners have noticed your connection to the veteran, which offers a small measure of protection. Not much, but in the Gulag, every advantage matters. As darkness falls, the temperature plummets further. The guards grow more irritable, shouting and occasionally striking prisoners who slow down. Everyone is eager to finish, to return to the relative shelter of the barracks, but the quota must be met, or everyone suffers. Put your hands in your armpits when the guards aren't looking, Mikhail advises during a brief pause. Frostbite will kill you faster than hunger. If your fingers go numb, you can't work. If you can't work, you don't eat. Simple as that. You do as he suggests, the small warmth, a momentary relief. It's hardly comfortable in your cozy bed, but it's survival, and for now that's enough. Finally, the day's work is deemed complete. The exhausted prisoners trudge back toward the camp, a dark line of figures against the snow. Behind you, the day's progress on the railway spur is barely visible, a shallow trench carved from the frozen earth, a few meters of track laid. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again, and the next day, and the next, until the railway is built, or you're buried alongside it. Back in camp, the evening meal is similar to lunch, thin soup and bread, with the addition of a small piece of salt fish for those who met their quota. The nutrition is inadequate for the calories burned during work, ensuring a slow starvation even for those who receive full rations. After dinner, prisoners have a brief period of free time before lights out. Some mend clothing with precious scraps of thread. Others carve small items to trade. Cups from birch bark, spoons from wood, crude needles from bone. A few gather in corners to whisper stories or recite poetry remembered from better days. Mikhail introduces you to a small group of his friends, other political prisoners who have formed a loose alliance for mutual protection. There's Anna, a former university professor sentenced for possessing banned books. Pavel, an accountant who made the mistake of questioning production figures. And Dmitri, a factory worker arrested simply because the NKVD needed to fill a quota of arrests. New arrivals come and go, Anna explains, her once elegant hands now calloused and cracked. Most don't make it through the first winter. We try to help when we can, but she trails off, the unspoken reality hanging between you. In the Gulag, survival often means making hard choices about who to help and who to let go. As you settle onto your shared bunk for the night, aching in every muscle, Mikhail offers one final piece of advice. Tomorrow will be harder than today. Your body isn't used to this work, but the day after will be a little easier, and the day after that. If you make it 2 weeks, you might make it 2 months. If you make it 2 months, you might make it a year. And after that, he shrugs. After that, you're one of us, the lucky ones. Lucky. The word seems absurd in this context, but as you look around at the survivors, gaunt, hardened but alive, you understand. Luck plays its part, but so does adaptability, intelligence, and sheer stubborn will. These are the tools of survival in the Gulag, as essential as bread and warm clothing. As exhaustion pulls you towards sleep, you wonder what version of yourself will emerge from this experience. Assuming you survive at all, the Gulag doesn't just work the body to destruction, it transforms the soul, forcing impossible choices and stripping away everything but the most elemental human drives. Tomorrow brings another day of labour, another test of endurance, but for now, you've survived your first day in the Soviet Gulag. It's a small victory in a place where even breathing feels like an act of defiance against a system designed to crush the human spirit. The last thing you hear before sleep claims you is Mikhail's voice, quiet in the darkness. Remember, one day at a time, just one day at a time. You wake to the sound of the barracks door slamming open. For a brief, blissful moment, you forget where you are. Then reality crashes back, the hard wooden bunk beneath you, the smell of unwashed bodies, the ache in every muscle. You've survived your first night in the Gulag. Up, now! A guard shouts, banging his truncheon against the wall. Around you, prisoners move with practiced efficiency. No one speaks, no one complains. They pull on their boots, straighten their threadbare jackets, and move toward the door like sleepwalkers. You follow, still clumsy with exhaustion and unfamiliarity. Mikhail appears at your side. "Sleep okay?" he asks, his voice low. You want to laugh at the absurdity of the question, but you're too tired. Sleep had been fitful at best, the bunk too crowded, too hard, the barracks too cold despite the bodies packed inside. Roll call, Mikhail explains, happens in the dark during winter, makes the days feel even shorter. Outside, the prisoners form neat lines in the pre-dawn blackness. The temperature must be 30 below zero. The cold seeps through your clothes as if they're not even there. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably. The guard moves down the line, counting. When he reaches you, he pauses. "New meat," he says flatly. "You won't last till spring." Beside you, Mikhail stiffens but keeps his eyes forward. "Don't respond," he whispers when the guard moves on. "Never give them a reason to notice you." After roll call comes breakfast, a thin gruel that might have once been oats with a chunk of dark bread. The bread is frozen solid. Mikhail shows you how to tuck it inside your jacket against your body to thaw it enough to eat. "The bread is sacred," he says. "Never eat it all at once. Save some for later when hunger hits hardest." You notice that the veterans cut their bread rations into precise portions with small pieces of wire they keep hidden in their clothes. Some even sleep with their remaining bread, afraid it will be stolen during the night. As everyone files out for the day's work assignments, Mikhail steers you toward a squat man with a clipboard. "Work assignment officer," he explains. "Your job determines if you live or die. Outside work in winter is a death sentence. Inside work means survival." The assignment officer barely glances at you. "New arrival? Railway construction." Mikhail steps forward. "Comrade, this one has engineering experience. Could be useful in the workshop." The officer narrows his eyes, suspicious of this advocacy. "Who says?" "I worked with engineers in Leningrad," you lie, picking up on Mikhail's cue. "Factory design, mostly." The officer snorts. "Workshop's full. Railway." He makes a notation and waves you on. Mikhail sighs. "Worth a try. Railway work is hard, but it could be worse. Could be logging or mining. Those'll kill you in weeks." Outside the main gate, prisoners are divided into work brigades. Each brigade has a leader, not a guard, but a prisoner given authority over the others. The brigade leaders are hard men with hard faces. Their position means better rations and less brutal work, but it also means being responsible for meeting quotas. "Our brigade leader is Stepan," Mikhail says, nodding toward a tall, gaunt man with a scar running from temple to jaw. "Former Red Army officer, tough but fair. Won't sacrifice you to save himself, which is rare enough." Stepan is assigning tools, shovels, pickaxes, spades. The tools are precious commodities, counted carefully at the beginning and end of each day. Losing a tool means punishment for the entire brigade. "Comrade engineer," Stepan says when you approach, using the lie you told earlier. His eyes are evaluating, not hostile. "Mikhail vouches for you. That's enough for now. Take a shovel and stay close to him. Learn quick or die quick. Only two options here." As your brigade marches to the work site, Mikhail continues your education. Camp runs on a hierarchy, he explains. Guards at the top, obviously. Then the trustees, prisoners who work for the administration. Below them, the criminals, the common thieves and murderers. We're at the bottom, the politicals. Politicals? Anyone arrested for a political crime, speaking against Stalin, showing up late to work too many times, having relatives abroad, being too educated, basically everyone who isn't a real criminal. The work site is a frozen hell. The railway spur being built extends from the main camp into the wilderness. Today's task is clearing snow and ice from yesterday's work, then continuing to dig the railbed through the frozen ground. Your shovel clangs against the ice-hard earth, sending painful vibrations up your arms. Within minutes, your hands are numb despite the rags wrapped around them. Your breath forms ice crystals in your nose with each exhalation. Nearby, a prisoner who looks even more skeletal than the others suddenly drops his shovel and clutches his chest. He crumples to the ground without a sound. Two guards walk over casually, discuss something between themselves, then drag the man away by his feet, leaving a dark trail in the snow. "Heart attack," Mikhail says flatly. "Common enough. Body can't handle the strain and the cold together." "They're not taking him to the infirmary?" Mikhail gives you a look of pity. "He's dead. They're taking him to the morgue pit. In winter, they don't even bury the bodies until spring thaw, just stack them like firewood." You stare after the guards, watching as they disappear around a bend with the dead man. It seems impossible that death could be treated so casually. But in the Gulag, you're learning death is the most common occurrence of all. The work continues hour after hour. The sun barely clears the horizon before beginning its descent again. The short winter day offers little warmth and less comfort. Prisoners move mechanically, conserving energy and warmth, speaking only when necessary. At noon, there's a brief break for food. The ration is the same thin soup and bread. You sit with Mikhail and a few others from your barracks, huddled against the wind. "How many die?" you ask Mikhail. He shrugs. "Winter takes the most. Maybe 1 in 10 prisoners each winter, more in bad years. Summer brings different killers. Dysentery, tuberculosis. The weak die first, but even the strong don't last long without luck." A prisoner you don't recognize sits down nearby. A heavy-set man with a gold tooth that glints when he smiles. Unlike most prisoners, he looks well-fed. His jacket is in better condition, and he's wearing mittens instead of rags on his hands. "Oh, who's that?" you whisper to Mikhail. "Verona, criminal prisoner, food distributor at the kitchen." Mikhail's voice drops even lower. "Be careful around him. He trades food for favors, but his protection costs more than most can pay." As if hearing his name, Verona looks over and grins. "Fresh meat," he says, nodding at you. "When you're tired of starving, come see me. I can help for a price." Before you can respond, Mikhail cuts in. "He's with us, Verona, engineering brigade." Verona's grin doesn't falter, but his eyes harden slightly. "Everyone needs friends in this place, engineer. Remember that when your political friends can't help you." He stands, brushing snow from his pants with well-fed nonchalance. "What did he mean by that?" you ask when Verona is out of earshot. "Criminals run their own system in here," Anna explains from across the circle. "They steal, they trade, they control what little comfort exists. The guards let them because it keeps us divided. Criminals hate politicals. They think we're soft, educated fools." "But not all criminals are like Verona," adds Pavel. "Some are just ordinary people who stole bread to feed their families. The real Vori, the professional criminals, they're the dangerous ones." "Or Vori v zakone," Mikhail explains. "Thieves in law. They have their own code, their own laws. They never cooperate with camp authorities, never work if they can avoid it. They steal and extort to survive." The whistle blows, ending the lunch break. As you stand to return to work, you notice Verona watching you from across the yard, his gold tooth catching the weak winter sunlight as he smiles. The afternoon drags on endlessly. Your muscles scream with exhaustion, but stopping means freezing, so you keep moving. The numbing cold has one mercy. After a while, you stop feeling the pain in your hands and feet. Mikhail warns this is dangerous, a sign of frostbite setting in. "Wiggle your fingers and toes whenever you can," he advises. "Frostbite will get you sent to the infirmary, and many who go there never return." As the weak winter sun begins to set, the guards call for the day's production to be measured. The brigade has fallen short of its quota, the frozen ground too hard, the workers too weak to make sufficient progress. Stepan, the brigade leader, argues briefly with the guard in charge, pointing to the rock-hard ground, the inadequate tools. The guard is unmoved. He makes a notation in his book that will mean reduced rations for everyone in the brigade. The march back to camp is silent, heavy with exhaustion and the knowledge of hunger to come. At the gate, guards count the prisoners and inspect them for contraband, anything from the work site that might be fashioned into a weapon or tool for escape. An older prisoner ahead of you is found with a small piece of wire hidden in his boot. The guards pull him aside for punishment. No one looks, no one speaks. There's nothing to be done. Back in the barracks, prisoners engage in the evening rituals of survival. Some examine their feet and hands for frostbite, others mend tears in their clothing with crude needles made from fish bones. A few gather in small groups to share whispered conversations. Precious moments of humanity in an inhumane place. You collapse onto your bunk, every muscle quivering with fatigue. Mikhail sits beside you, offering a small bundle wrapped in a scrap of cloth. "Here," he says, "extra bread, just for tonight. Tomorrow, you're on your own." The gesture brings unexpected tears to your eyes. In this place where selfishness is survival, kindness is almost shocking. "Why help me?" you ask. Mikhail is quiet for a moment. "I had help when I first arrived. Man named Yuri taught me what I'm teaching you. He died last winter. Pneumonia." He shrugs. "Besides, more hands make lighter work. Brigade needs strong workers to meet quota." You understand the practicality beneath the kindness. Nothing in the Gulag is purely altruistic. Survival depends on calculation as much as compassion. As you eat the gifted bread slowly, savouring each crumb, Anna joins you and Mikhail. Her face is drawn with exhaustion, but her eyes remain alert. "I've been thinking," she says quietly. "The new one needs proper mittens. The hospital has a mending room. I know someone there who might trade." Mikhail nods. "What's the cost?" "Half a bread ration. It's an enormous price, half a day's nutrition, but you understand now that frostbitten hands mean death as surely as starvation, just more slowly. I can pay," you say, though the thought of giving up food already makes your stomach clench. Anna shakes her head. "Not your bread. Mine. But you'll owe me." She gives you a tired smile. "Nothing comes free here. Remember that." This is your introduction to the complex economy of the Gulag. Everything has value. Food, clothing, tools, medicine, even knowledge. Prisoners trade what little they have to fill their most desperate needs. A broken spoon might be worth a few puffs on a cigarette. A needle could be traded for an extra ladle of soup. Everyone calculates constantly, weighing needs against resources. Your first rule of trading, Mikhail advises, seeing your interest. Never show desperation. Second rule, never trade all of anything. Keep something back. You never know when you'll need it. The barracks door opens, admitting a gust of frigid air and a prisoner you haven't seen before. He's shorter than most, with quick, darting eyes that take in everything. Several prisoners nod to him with what looks like respect. "That's Isaac," Mikhail whispers. "Camp doctor. Unofficial, of course. The official doctors barely treat politicals. Isaac was a surgeon in Moscow before his arrest. Now he trades medical help for whatever he can get." "What was his crime?" you ask. "Jewish," Mikhail says simply. "That's enough these days." Isaac makes his way through the barracks, stopping to check on several prisoners. He changes a crude bandage here, examines a swollen joint there. Finally, he reaches your group. "Or new arrival?" he asks, eyeing you professionally. Let me see your hands. You hold them out, red, cracked, already showing signs of the damage to come. Isaac clicks his tongue disapprovingly. You'll lose fingers like this, he says. Maybe worse. From a hidden pocket he produces a small tin of what looks like grease. Bare fat mixed with pine resin. Rub it in every night. Not enough, but better than nothing. He hands you the tin, a treasure beyond price in this place. You stare at him, uncomprehending. What do I trade for this? Isaac's smile is tired but genuine. First one's free, after that we talk payment. Maybe you have skills I can use? You begin. Then remember the role you've claimed. Engineering, design. Isaac nods thoughtfully. Good. I need someone who can draw. Medical diagrams for teaching the assistants. Come see me when your hands heal enough to hold a pencil. After he moves on, you turn the small tin over in your hands, still bewildered by this unexpected gift. Don't look so surprised, Anna says. We help each other when we can, not from kindness, from necessity. No one survives alone here. Mikhail nods agreement. The authorities expect us to turn on each other like animals. Sometimes we do, but there's resistance in cooperation, in remembering we're human. Small defiances, but they matter. As night settles fully over the camp, the barracks grows quiet. The small stove in the centre provides meagre heat, and prisoners huddle on their bunks, conserving warmth. Some cough, the racking wet cough that signals tuberculosis or pneumonia. Others whimper in their sleep, caught in nightmares no worse than their waking reality. You apply Isaac's ointment to your raw hands, the sharp smell of pine resin cutting through the barrack's stale air. The relief is immediate, a small mercy in a merciless place. Tomorrow will be harder, Mikhail says, settling onto the bunk beside you. Second day always is. Body rebels against what you're asking it to do, but the day after gets easier, and the day after that. How do you know I'll last that long? You ask. Mikhail studies you for a moment. Something in the eyes, he says finally. Some have already given up when they arrive, walking dead. Others still have fight. You're still fighting. You're not sure if he's right. Fighting seems impossible in this place where every element, cold, hunger, brutality, is designed to crush resistance. Yet something in you refuses to be extinguished, a stubborn ember of selfhood that even the Gulag can't quite smother. As you drift towards sleep, you hear soft voices from a corner of the barracks. Someone is reciting poetry, Pushkin, you think, and others are listening in reverent silence. This small act of cultural remembrance feels suddenly, inexplicably important. They can take your freedom, your health, even your name, but as long as someone remembers Pushkin, something of civilization remains. You close your eyes, adding another lesson to your growing understanding of survival. Find the moments of humanity. Hold them close. They might keep you warm when nothing else can. Tomorrow will bring another day of brutal labour, bone-deep cold and gnawing hunger. But for now, you've learned the first lessons of Gulag life. You've begun to map the invisible landscape of power, trade and alliance that underlies the visible architecture of barracks and guard towers. You've taken the first steps on the long path of adaptation that might, with skill and enormous luck, lead to survival. The last thought before sleep claims you is surprising in its clarity. They can imprison your body, but your mind remains your own. In the Gulag, this might be the most important survival tool of all. As consciousness fades, the barracks dissolves into darkness, and for a moment, you're somewhere else entirely. Somewhere warm, safe, and far from this frozen hell. It won't last, this mental escape, but for now, it's enough. Morning comes too soon again. The same shouted orders, the same hurried preparation, the same watery gruel for breakfast, but something has changed. You move with slightly more purpose, slightly less confusion. You're learning. Look, Mikhail says, as your brigade marches to the work site. He points to a prisoner in a different brigade, a man who moves with a peculiar, shuffling gait. Self-maiming, cut his own foot to get out of work. They gave him 3 months in the punishment cells, then sent him back to work anyway. You watch the limping man with a mixture of horror and fascination. What drives someone to such desperation? Then again, after just 2 days in the Gulag, you're beginning to understand. At the worksite, Stepan, the brigade leader, makes an announcement. New system today. We work in pairs, experienced with new arrivals, faster workers with slower ones, only way to meet quota. He pairs you with Mikhail, a kindness disguised as efficiency. Other new prisoners are paired with veterans as well. It's a survival strategy, the strong helping the weak enough to meet the collective goal, but not so much that they endanger themselves. Watch and learn, Mikhail says as you begin. Pace yourself, work steady, not fast. Breathe deep but slow. Cold air can damage lungs if you gasp it in. You mimic his movements, finding the rhythm that balances energy conservation with productivity. By midday, you're working more efficiently, though your muscles still scream with each shovelful of frozen earth. During the lunch break, Anna approaches with a bundle. Your mittens, she says, handing them over. They're crude, fashioned from scraps of wool and leather, but far better than the rags you've been using. Half my bread ration for a week, she reminds you, starting tomorrow. You nod, understanding the transaction. In the warmth of your comfortable bed, this might seem exploitative, charging so much for simple mittens, but here, where survival hangs by the thinnest thread, it's simply the reality of existence. As you pull on the mittens, feeling the immediate relief they provide, Verona appears again. He watches the exchange with interest, then approaches your small group. "Oh, nice mittens, engineer," he says, gold tooth catching the light. "But you'll need more than warm hands to survive winter. Food is what keeps the heart beating." He produces a small package wrapped in cloth. "Extra rations, yours for a reasonable trade." "What kind of trade?" you ask, suspicious but also desperately hungry. Verona smiles. "Information. You're educated, yes? You hear things. Understand things. The guards talk more freely around engineers than common labourers. I just want to know what you hear." Mikhail's expression darkens. "He wants you to spy," he says flatly. "On us? On the guards? On anyone? Information is currency too." Verona's smile doesn't falter. Everyone trades something political. Some trade bread, some trade medicine. He taps his temple. Some trade what they know. Think about it, engineer. My offer stays open. He walks away, leaving the group in uncomfortable silence. "Never trust him," Pavel says, quietly. "Men like that survive by ensuring others don't." You nod, but the encounter leaves you unsettled. Verona represents another facet of Gulag life, the constant temptation to betray others for personal gain. In a place where death hovers so near, morality becomes fluid, situational. What wouldn't you do to survive one more day, one more week? These questions follow you through the afternoon's labour. The work itself becomes almost meditative, the same motion repeated endlessly, your mind free to wander while your body performs its task. This separation of consciousness from physical suffering, you realise, is another survival technique. By the time the day ends, your brigade has almost met its quota. Not enough for bonus rations, but enough to avoid penalties. It's a small victory, celebrated with exhausted nods between workers as you trudge back to camp. In the barracks that night, Isaac checks your hands again, nodding approval at the mittens. "Better," he says. "You might keep all your fingers now." "When can I start drawing for you?" you ask, eager to repay the debt of the ointment. Soon, he says. Rest tonight. Hand injuries heal quickly if treated properly. As he moves away, Mikhail explains another aspect of camp life. Isaac trades medical help, but what he's really doing is building a network. People who owe him, people who respect him. That's real power here. Not fear, but gratitude and respect. You think about this as you settle onto your bunk, understanding more clearly now the complex web of relationships that sustains life in the camps. There's the official power structure, guards, administrators, trustees, and then there's the unofficial one. Doctors like Isaac, brigade leaders like Stepan, criminal bosses like Verona. Navigating these hierarchies is as crucial as physical endurance. Anna sits nearby, mending a tear in her jacket with meticulous care. "Do you have family outside?" she asks suddenly. The question catches you off guard. Talk of the outside world is both precious and painful. "Yes," you say after a moment. "A sister in Kiev, parents in Moscow." "You?" "Husband and son," she says, eyes on her needlework. "Arrested the same night as me. Different camps. I don't know if they're alive." The simple statement lands like a physical blow. So many families shattered, so many connections severed. The Gulag doesn't just imprison individuals, it dismembers entire social networks, leaving isolation in its wake. "I was a literature professor," Anna continues, "specialized in foreign poetry. That was enough to make me an enemy of the state. My husband was a chemist. My son was 15. The past tense when speaking of them is telling, not that she knows they're dead, but that she's trained herself to think of that life as over. Another survival technique, letting go of what can't be held. Around the barracks, similar quiet conversations unfold. Prisoners sharing fragments of their former lives, preserving memories like precious artifacts. This too is resistance, refusing to let the Gulag define their entire existence. As lights out approaches, Mikhail offers one final lesson for the day. "Remember their names," he says, nodding toward the other prisoners. "Remember their stories. In here, being remembered is the only immortality we have." You nod, committing to memory the names and faces around you. Mikhail the engineer, Anna the professor, Pavel the accountant, Isaac the doctor, Stepan the brigade leader, even Verona with his gold tooth and dangerous offers. This is your world now, these people, this barracks, the railway worksite. The past recedes a little more each day. The future extends only as far as the next meal, the next work shift. But in this contracted present, you're learning to survive, hour by hour, breath by breath. As the barracks lights go out, plunging the space into darkness, relieved only by the dim glow of the stove, you realize you've completed your second full day in the Gulag. It's nothing, a drop in the ocean of your 10-year sentence, but it's also everything, proof that survival is possible, at least for now. Outside, the Arctic wind howls across the compound, rattling the barracks' walls. Inside, prisoners shift and murmur in their sleep, each lost in private dreams or nightmares. You lie awake a while longer, feeling the ache in your muscles, the gnawing in your stomach, but also something unexpected, a fierce determination to see tomorrow and the day after that. The Gulag is designed to break the human spirit, to reduce people to nothing more than units of labour to be used and discarded. Your resistance begins with this simple refusal to remain human, to remember your name, to help others when you can, to accept help when it's offered. In your warm, comfortable bed right now, this might seem like a small thing, but in the frozen hell of the Soviet Gulag, it's everything. Days blend into one another in the Gulag. The routine becomes your anchor. Roll call at dawn, work until dusk, meager meals, brief rest, then sleep. Repeat until you die or your sentence ends. After 2 weeks, you've settled into this rhythm, your body adapting to survive on too little food and too little rest. "Congratulations," Mikhail says one morning. "You've outlasted half the new arrivals from your transport." You hadn't noticed, but looking around, you realize he's right. Many faces from that first day are gone, taken by cold, hunger, or disease. Their bunks now occupied by newer arrivals, the cycle continuing without pause. Today is Sunday, the one day each month when prisoners don't work. Not from any religious consideration, but because even the Soviet system recognizes that machines need maintenance. And in the Gulag, prisoners are just machines. "What happens on free days?" you ask Mikhail as you finish your morning gruel. "Depends," he says. "Some rest, some trade, some try to improve their shelters." He glances around to make sure no guards are nearby. Smart ones learn. He leads you to a corner of the barracks where a small group has gathered around Isaac. The doctor is speaking quietly, drawing diagrams in the dust on the floor. "Frostbite," he's explaining. "First stage, the skin turns red and swollen. Second stage, blisters form. Third stage, the flesh dies and turns black." He erases his drawing with a sweep of his hand. "Prevention is everything. Keep extremities warm, keep moving, don't let sweat freeze against your skin." This is an improvised medical school, you realize. Isaac teaching basic survival medicine to anyone willing to learn. You join the circle, listening intently as he moves on to hypothermia, pneumonia, dysentery, the common killers of the camps. After the lesson, Isaac pulls you aside. "Your hands are better," he says. "Ready to help with some drawings?" He produces a small scrap of paper and a stub of pencil, precious commodities in the Gulag. Your assignment is to draw anatomical diagrams from Isaac's descriptions, creating a crude medical reference that can be hidden from guards. "Why the secrecy?" you ask as you sketch a diagram of the human respiratory system. "Knowledge is power," Isaac says simply. "They don't want us to have either." Across the barracks, other groups have formed. Anna leads one, teaching French to 3 younger prisoners. Pavel has organized what appears to be a chess game, except there's no board or pieces. The players call out moves and track positions entirely in their heads. "The University of the Excluded," Mikhail calls it with grim humor. "Best education in the Soviet Union if you survive the entrance exam." This intellectual resistance, preserving knowledge, culture, humanity in a system designed to destroy all three, strikes you as both futile and profoundly necessary. What good is poetry in a place where people freeze to death? What use is chess to the starving? And yet, these activities seem to sustain something essential that food and warmth alone cannot. Your drawing session is interrupted by a commotion at the barracks door. 2 guards enter, followed by a civilian in a better quality coat, an administrator from the camp headquarters. "Attention," the senior guard shouts. "Camp inspector?" Prisoners scramble to stand at attention beside their bunks, hiding any contraband or evidence of unauthorized activities. Isaac's medical papers disappear into secret pockets. Anna's French lesson transforms instantly into a group mending session, needles appearing from nowhere. The inspector moves through the barracks, making a show of checking conditions. He pokes at the stove, frowns at the thin blankets, makes notes on a clipboard. It's all theatre. Everyone knows conditions won't improve, no matter what he writes. When he reaches your section, he pauses, noticing the pencil you weren't quick enough to hide. "What's this?" he demands. Before you can respond, Mikhail steps forward. Work requisition, citizen inspector, for the railway project. I was just explaining to the new arrival how to properly complete the forms. The inspector looks skeptical, but continues his rounds without pressing the issue. After he leaves, the barracks exhales collectively. Always the same, Stepan says from his bunk. They come, they see, they write reports nobody reads. Nothing changes. Or something changed last inspection, Pavel counters. They took away our Sunday meal, said it was wasteful to feed non-working prisoners the same as working ones. This revelation is chilling. You haven't eaten since last night's dinner and won't eat again until tomorrow's breakfast. A full 24 hours without food, your body already operating on minimal calories. The casual cruelty of this policy, the deliberate weakening of already starving people, is stunning in its calculation. Why do they bother with inspections at all, you ask? Anna gives a bitter laugh. Bureaucracy. The Soviet system runs on papers and stamps and signatures. Someone in Moscow needs to check a box saying the camps were inspected. And occasionally, Isaac adds quietly, they need to find someone to blame when too many prisoners die. A commandant here, a doctor there, sacrifices to the great Soviet efficiency machine. As the day wears on, you witness the various ways prisoners use their free time. Some sleep, catching up on rest their bodies desperately need. Others engage in the camp's underground economy, trading food for services, clothing for medicine, information for protection. Verona holds court near the barracks door, presiding over his informal marketplace. You watch as a thin prisoner approaches him, offering what appears to be a handmade comb carved from wood. Verona examines it, nods, and passes over a small package. Extra food, most likely. Another prisoner trades what looks like a letter, presumably to be smuggled out of camp through Verona's connections, for a pair of foot wrappings. He has contacts among the civilian workers, Mikhail explains, following your gaze. Guards, too. Anything can be had for a price, and Verona sets the prices. How does he get away with it, you ask? The guards must know. Of course they know. They're part of it. Guards need things too. Vodka, tobacco, news from home. The smart ones work with prisoners like Verona rather than against them. This symbiotic corruption, each party using the other for mutual benefit, seems to be one of the few functioning systems in the camp. It's exploitative and brutal, but it creates channels through which scarce resources can flow, keeping alive those who otherwise might perish. Later in the afternoon, Stepan organises a small group to repair the barracks roof, which has begun to leak as winter gives way to the brief muddy spring. You volunteer, grateful for any activity that generates body heat on this food-free day. On the roof, working with scavenged materials to patch holes, you get your first clear view of the entire camp. The sight steals your breath, not just your barracks and work area, but dozens of similar structures stretching into the distance, each surrounded by fence and guard towers, each filled with hundreds of prisoners. The scale of the Gulag system suddenly becomes tangible. Not just your suffering multiplied, but thousands upon thousands of similar stories playing out simultaneously. How many camps like this are there? You ask Stepan as you hammer a piece of scrap metal over a hole. Hundreds, he says grimly, from here to the Pacific, some bigger, some smaller, all the same in what matters. And how many prisoners total? Stepan shrugs. Millions. Nobody knows exactly, not even the authorities, I think. Too many to count, too many to bury properly, just statistics on some bureaucrat's desk in Moscow. The vastness of it, this continent-spanning archipelago of suffering, makes you dizzy. Your individual pain, significant as it is to you, becomes a single drop in an ocean of misery. The Soviet system has industrialized imprisonment on a scale never before seen in human history. Back in the barracks, hunger gnaws at you with increasing intensity. By evening, many prisoners have retreated to their bunks, conserving energy, trying to sleep through the pangs. Others sit in small groups, distracting themselves with quiet conversation. The hunger gets worse before it gets better, Mikhail advises. Your body is still fighting, still expecting regular meals. Eventually it surrenders, accepts the new normal. How long does that take, you ask? For months, he says, and it never completely goes away, but the sharp edge dulls. You learn to live with it like pain from an old wound. Anna joins your conversation, her face drawn with hunger but her eyes still alert. The mind can overcome the body's demands, she says. That's what they don't understand about us, the political prisoners. We've already sacrificed comfort for principle. We know how to deny ourselves. This stoicism, this elevation of mental discipline over physical need, seems to be another dividing line between the political prisoners and the criminals. The criminals fight, steal, and scheme for immediate gratification. The politicals endure, sharing when possible, maintaining dignity even in degradation. As night falls, bringing with it the bitter cold that seeps through the barracks walls, Isaac organizes what can only be described as a cultural evening. In hushed tones, prisoners recite poetry from memory. Pushkin, Lermontov, even forbidden writers like Akhmetova and Mandel Stam. Others tell folk tales or sing songs so quietly they're almost whispered. In the old days, they'd shoot you for this, Mikhail says. Unauthorized gathering, counter-revolutionary content. Now they just extend your sentence if they catch you. Progress, Soviet style. Despite the risk, the shared words create a fragile bubble of normality, a temporary escape from the Gulags' grinding reality. You find yourself transported, however briefly, to a world of beauty and meaning beyond the camp fences. One prisoner, a former actor from Moscow named Leonid, performs a monologue from Chekhov with such power that tears glisten in the eyes of his audience. For a few precious minutes, the barracks is transformed into a theatre, the filthy bunks into velvet seats, the audience of slaves into free citizens engaged in culture. They can take everything else, Anna whispers, as Leonid takes a mock bow to silent applause, but they cannot take what we carry in our minds. This, you realize, is another form of resistance, preserving not just knowledge but art, not just survival techniques but the very essence of civilization, in a system designed to reduce humans to their most basic animal functions: working, eating, defecating, sleeping. Maintaining connection to art and beauty becomes revolutionary. As the improvised performances conclude and prisoners settle for sleep, Mikhail offers another observation. Notice who participated tonight. All politicals, no criminals. They think we're soft, but we outlast them in the end. They fight the camp with their fists. We fight it with our minds. That night, despite your empty stomach, you sleep more soundly than usual, your dreams filled with poetry and theatre, rather than the usual nightmares of freezing and falling. The human mind's capacity for adaptation, for finding moments of transcendence in the depths of hell, continues to astonish you. Morning brings a return to routine. Roll call, breakfast. Never enough but ambrosia to your starved body. Then the march to the work site. Spring is accelerating, the snow melting to reveal the muddy ground beneath. This creates new challenges. Tools stick in the mud, boots become sodden. The work of railway building grows messier, though no less exhausting. Careful of your feet, Isaac warns as the brigade prepares for the day's labour. Wet boots mean blisters. Blisters mean infection. Infection means amputation or death. In the Gulags medical hierarchy, prevention is everything. Once disease or injury takes hold, treatment options are limited to non-existent. The camp infirmary is understaffed, undersupplied, and often staffed by prisoners with minimal medical training. Many who enter never leave. Today's work is laying railroad ties along the newly dug track bed. The ties are massive logs requiring 4 prisoners to lift each one. The labour is backbreaking and the mud makes each step treacherous. Midway through the morning, a prisoner in your brigade, an older man named Grigori, slips while carrying his end of a tie. The massive log crashes down, pinning his leg. The sound of breaking bone is audible even over his scream. Guards approach casually, assessing the situation with clinical detachment. After a brief discussion, they order other prisoners to lift the tie and drag Grigori to the side of the work area. Back to work, the senior guard orders. Quota doesn't change because of one accident. You stare at Grigori, who lies white-faced and sweating in the mud, his leg bent at an unnatural angle. Someone should help him, you whisper to Mikhail. There's nothing to be done, he responds, though the pain in his eyes belies his matter-of-fact tone. No doctor will come here. If he's lucky, they'll take him to the infirmary at the end of the day. And if he's not lucky, Mikhail doesn't answer, but his silence is answer enough. Some accidents are death sentences, slow or quick depending on the severity and the whims of the guards. The work continues, but the mood has darkened. Every prisoner knows they could be next. One slip, one moment of weakness or inattention, and they too could be lying in the mud, waiting for help that might never come. At lunch,